osur hashoysa b'Pesach ve'ezer mutar hashoysa. In other words, the problem is you have to realize that a Morgus item was not like today. Today, especially in Lubavitch, we sell even chometz gomel. If you have a bread that you didn't use up, or your challah that you didn't use up, so you put it in your freezer and you sell it. On Morgus item, they didn't. The people would eat up most of their chometz. There's something that was remained. I mean, it was a kleinigkeit, you know. So we can see over here that there's different types of chometz. There's chometz taruves, there's chometz nuksha, hardened chometz. So that's what we can see over here. She says that kol davar sheyesh b'ay taruves chometz, afilu ein b'ay chometz ve'ein. Rak hatam b'chometz has the taste of the chometz. Kigayin sheisiru as a chometz. They took out the chometz, the actual chometz item they took out, and what we left over there, let's say in the liquid, is absorbed the tam of the chometz. He's become makam osur hashoysa b'Pesach. You're not allowed to have it in Pesach. Avo dover sh'hoya by chometz kal, elish and his bashal b'kli chometz. The whole thing is it was just cooked in a pot. It was a chometz like a pot. Afilu hoya kli ben yoymai. Even if the keli was today used with chometz. If the keli was used yesterday with chometz, so then the chometz becomes pogum, whatever is absorbed in the walls of the keli. But oisha nichbash b'kli chometz, that means it was preserved. Like people make us say pickles or other things. That's called preserving. Is mutar hashoysa b'Pesach. You gotta have it in Pesach. It doesn't mean you gotta eat it on Pesach. You gotta have it in your shus on Pesach. As I dacht upon a din, lo yirah, lo yimotzei. V'yizor latzni'ei b'chayda, and should be careful to put it in a room. She'ena rogo lika lega rishon, which he normally doesn't go over there.
Skip.
I skip.
Oh yeah.
V'davke she'en bashal oy nichbash kaidem ha-Pesach. Avol in this bashal oy nichbash b'Pesach b'kli chometz chayav m'levarei. Because the difference is, because chometz and Pesach b'mashal. If over here he's talking that it became bottle b'shishim, and chometz b'kaidem ha-Pesach becomes bottle. It's a tater bowl. But in Pesach, it's isura bowl, and then it's b'mashal. So if you, even though it's a tam pogum and everything, but it's b'mashal.
There are people who do all the cooking for Pesach before Pesach.
That's why a lot of people do all the cooking for Pesach. That's why a lot of people even buy their products before Pesach, you know. And that's also why there's the minhag in Lubavitch about sugar on Pesach. So the machmirim, the real machmirim, don't use sugar at all during Pesach. Huh? There's a mice with the Rebbe Rashab. It's hard to explain it. I mean, it doesn't. It's not a thing that's really understandable. But there was a mice with the Rebbe Rashab that somebody that was machmer about that made. They used to make sugar blocks, like cubes of sugar. And so someone brought the Rebbe Rashab what he made, and the Rebbe Rashab broke it open, and there was a veitz in it. There was a piece of wheat in it. How does wheat come to sugar? The whole thing is but that's the story in Lubavitch. So for them is geworden that Lubavitch doesn't use sugar on Pesach. Well, Moshe in the yeshiva kitchen, which is the most with Mrs. Musi and the Moitin, if you remember her. I mean, there was no sugar. But in Lubavitcher homes, they do use sugar, what many do is they dilute the sugar in water. They make the sugar liquid. So maybe if there was anything in the sugar, it became bottled before Pesach. That's the inyan of liquid sugar.
You do with your coffee. Let's say you drink coffee, you do it also with your coffee also.
So you have just like you have lemon juice that you can put into the tea, you have a spoon of liquid sugar. That's what people do. Today, it's not shaykh to find vase in sugar. It's two different types of products entirely, but that's a Lubavitcher Chumrah. I don't know if the hotels that advertise Nitgebrocks also advertise liquid sugar. I'm not sure about that, but.
You said the story last year with the knedel. The guy said he goes to Brooks and the story with the knedel with the Brooks. The top was not the Brooks, but the bottom that was
The waiter went around with a bowl of soup. So for those who want knedel, he had on the bottom. He had the knedel. You know. Tvur sheyesh bo garinim tzumuchim oy mevukoyim. Now, I'll explain. I explained it what this means. If you go to the field, the way wheat grows on a stalk, like a tall stick, and on the stick, on top of the stick, there's a bag, and in the bag there's a lot of little kernels. The kernels look like corn, like you see sometimes corn that people make popcorn. You know, they buy these kernels. That's what it looks like. So what do they do? They cut down and they take off the top of the stalk, and they break the bag that's holding the kernels, and then today they do everything by machine. But a Morgenstein, that's what they had, a goyden, and the goyden, they would be dosh means dreshen, and the animal would walk on it and break it. Remember, so they would all break open, and then you had on the floor the pieces of chaff, it's called in English, and the kernel. So you had to separate the kernel from the pieces from the bag that held them. So what they would do is on Morgenzeiten, they would throw it up in the air, and that was called Windschaffen, Miruach. Zoydem Fazel. In other words, the idea was you threw it up in the air, so the wind would blow away those pieces of the cover, and the kernels would fall down on the ground. After you did that, you had to grind them. You had to grind the kernels. In the kernels was flour. So the idea was to break open. It's a hard piece. You have to break open that hard piece, and the flour comes out. So what's the type? By matzah, they ask you if you want whole wheat or regular. What's whole wheat or regular? Regular means that the flour, the white powder, is separated from that hard piece in which it was laying in. Not the shaft, the kernel itself. And whole wheat means that it's mixed together, is ground together. Now, these kernels, you have to check them. Sometimes it's a little kernel, and a little piece of grass is growing out of it. That little piece of grass means that it got wet. It became chumid. The water got in there, and it became wet, and that's the way. So that's the way. Or no, so he says, tvua Sheyesh bo garoinim. Tvua means the big stem. Sheyesh bo garoin, that there's kernels, and the tzmuchim means that they're beginning to grow. Pieces are growing out from it. Sometimes you see an onion. An onion gets old, it begins to grow out. So it's empty from these pieces of wheat. Or they're just cracked open. If they're cracked open, it means that it's beginning to sprout already. We have to they have to be careful when they cut the wheat for the matzah. They have to make sure that there's no rain there, that it doesn't get wet. Because as long as the wheat is attached to the ground, it can get wet from today to tomorrow. But once it gets detached from the ground, if it becomes wet, it can become chametz. That's our matzah is called shmura mishas ktsira. That from the time that it was cut, it developed matzah, the other matzah, not shmura matzah, is shmura mishas tchina. They don't. It's just mishas tchina that when they have the sacks of the flour, it shouldn't become wet. So it's also a shaysim. You're not allowed to hold it. Mikol mokem im over v'shor mutorim b'chilu acha pesach, because they're not mamash chometz. It's not chometz gomer. It's a chash chometz. That maybe if you see that it's beginning to sprout, maybe it became a chometz.
In Lubavitch, I think most do not have Mishas Ksira. In Lubavitch, most people not have matzah for whole Pesach.
No, that's the Veltische matzah.
Huh?
I mean, there's
No, Mishas Ksira, I'm saying even. They didn't have. It was two, they didn't have machines.
The Rebbe made it popular.
The Rebbe
made it popular by
I don't have to leave tomorrow morning.
so v'chein kol advarim shenasu mitzvah zu also l'shaysam. You have to put it away. In other words, you have to put it away with the chametz. U'misha moichel lachaver tzvah shenisrachacha. If you saw tzvah that became wet, candles on a shaila of chametz. Tzarech adiyah yasod no. Shelo yasha oisa b'pesach. You shouldn't hold it in Pesach. U'lenachi also l'marcher, and you can't sell it also to a guy. B'mkaim sheyesh shash where sheyiv gerena hanochi sold. The guy may sell it back to a yid. V'yisha oisa b'pesach, and he'll have it doing Pesach. Be a shaila of chametz. Begodim shenis kapsu v'niskenu b'chalev chito. This is what we call starch. Now, when you go to the store and you make a shirt and they ask you which starch or without starch, that's not this starch. We're talking about here in Shulchan Aruch. Here in Shulchan Aruch is talking that they made starch from flour. The starch that we use is a synthetic material. It's not, it has nothing to do with chametz. So he's saying, now the shaila is, if you have a tablecloth, that it was starched, we don't have that shaila, but this is what he's talking about over here. The Godim shenis kapsu v'nisklu b'chalev chito u'ba'amilam. There's different kind of starch. Mutter l'lovshu b'Pesach. You got to wear it on Pesach. You don't see the starch. The starch isn't there. The starch got into the baguette. Avo ein hatzin al shulchan. You can't put them out on the table. Why not? Because food may fall on the tablecloth, and it will come in contact. It will absorb that chametz dika starch. Im yesh aleim eza mamoshes sheyesh rochos sheyispayra mehem eza piru. That some of the starch may break. Maybe it wasn't so powdery and it didn't dissolve. Because kain she'also losses l'toichon kemach shel Pesach. You're not allowed to put in flour. You can't mix it with Pesach flour. I'm talking about on these begodim or what, or because it may come in contact with mamish chametz. Mutter lahadbik nayares b'chaloin. Now, they used to use paste. You know, today you have the Elmer's glue, but on Morgan Zeiten, how did they make paste? The teachers made paste in the school. Yeah. They took flour and they mixed it with the water to go on paste. It's chametz. She says, mutter. So now, if you had the Moshe, let's say you had put up a sign on the window. How do you stick it to? They didn't have Scotch tape. They would use this paste and like, or they in Eretz Yisrael when there's Chas V'Shalom or Levaya, there's a special a sign hanger that goes around with a brush and it's real paste. But on Morgenzeiten they use this starch that they. She says, "Mutter lahadvik nayaris b'chalan." You're allowed to paste papers to the window. Afilu b'ter shreish yom Pesach. U'bavad sheloi yehei achamas niri. You shouldn't be able to see the glue. V'kiven shehadevik ein achamas gomer. V'gam hu mechusa is covered with the paper because it covers the paper covers it up against the window. Loi ichmira boy. Avim nira b'chutz also. Then you're not allowed to b'kayt v'shreish yom b'chol in your mutter because it becomes already chametz nuksha. That you can't eat it, you can't. It's not edible anymore. Okay. These are all dinim which today the American boys when they're going shulchan they don't know what it's talking about.